All right, Mike Carlson, good morning to you. How you doing?
Oh, okay. Better than OC, I guess. I'm not feeling too frustrated.
Are you a little bit bleary-eyed after the opening weekend?
A little bit's the best word for it. That was amazing. Opening day was Thursday, but opening Sunday, just games that were incredibly close, some surprise results, a shootout that we sort of never expected, a couple of upsets, and of course, from my mind, still a lot of controversy over what is and isn't a tackle now, to add to our ongoing debate about what is or isn't a catch.
Yeah, so just to explain to people about the tackle, basically what's happened is that, and I had not having seen this happen in the preseason, but if somebody is tackling the quarterback and they land on the quarterback in the act of tackling him, that's now a penalty.
Yeah, and we were watching the Jacksonville game, which we were doing on radio in London, and then watching Red Zone on another screen and trying to keep up with everything else that was going on. It seemed like every time you looked, someone was getting a sack and getting a penalty. And Carlos Dunlop for the Bengals got one, and you just thought, how can you levitate your body off the quarterback when you hit him? And it was an absolutely perfect kind of form tackle. You hit him, and as you're going down, you can't separate, from. And we know it. To me, it's like the helmet rule. It's very easy to see when someone is using their helmet to target or their helmet as the lead in their tackle. But you're taught to tackle with your head. You're taught to wrap, and you're taught to drop. So it's very easy to see when somebody tries to apply extra pressure, as if they were, coming off the top rope in a wrestling match with a splash. But it's very hard to tell when somebody actually tackles a quarterback and is lying on top of him that he's trying to gain any extra advantage or inflict any extra harm.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a story because it happened in about 4 separate games that I saw it in. So let's talk about one of the big stories coming from last night. This is Aaron Rodgers' come from behind victory. There was a moment where Khalil Mack, one of the biggest, most expensive transfers in NFL history, has one of those moments that you're not really supposed to have in your debut unless there's some some mediocre Hollywood writer scripting it. He gets an interception, takes it to the house. Chicago's going absolutely mental, thinking, okay, this is the start of a new era. Aaron Rodgers goes out of the game injured, and everybody's like, oh, what's going to happen here? But, it's Aaron Rodgers, and it turns out he is the Messiah.
Yeah, and they were down 20-0 at the half. They were down 23 at the beginning of the fourth quarter, and I hate to use another wrestling metaphor, but what it needed was someone to play the music and then have the announcers go, "That's Aaron Rodgers' music," and have him come walking out onto the field. And it was amazing because I think partly Khalil Mack ran out of gas in the second half, which is what happens when you don't have any preseason to get ready. But partly they also adjusted, and Rodgers, it's a knee injury of some sort. I'd suspect a sprain in his ACL, but he wasn't moving all that much. But he was simply sliding a bit in the pocket. They picked up their protection to give him some time, and then you just watched him hit receiver after receiver in perfect positions. And they weren't doing anything fancy to get them open either. They were just coming down and it was clinical. And of course, there was a dropped interception. The kind of untold story. It was a sitter in the fourth quarter that if it were intercepted, there goes the Packers' rally win and the story. But it didn't happen. And 2 big plays, one to Geronimo Allison, whose name I love, and one to Randall Cobb. And when you hit a receiver in stride, a lot of good things can happen. And that's what happened with Cobb. Over the middle, one deep safety comes up to try to steal the ball. Cobb makes the catch because it's perfectly placed for him. And then there's really nobody between him and the goal line until he gets to about the 10.
It really is a shame that the Packers are in the NFC, because I think what we all want, and I think what we all deserve really at this point, is like a massive championship game this season between Tom Brady and between Aaron Rodgers. The NFC is probably just a little bit too deep for that to happen in the Super Bowl, unfortunately. But what do you reckon? What are the chances of a Brady versus Rodgers Super Bowl?
Well, I think the Packers are not as strong all around roster-wise as some of the other teams in the NFC. And you're absolutely right; it's the much stronger division. I mean, in their division, they've got Minnesota, who's going to be a difficult ask for them because they're so good defensively. The Patriots, I think, have a pretty good shot, even though they're a long way off right now. They didn't look very impressive against Houston, unless you consider what Brady was working with to get that win. But Rodgers can carry a team a long way. It's amazing some of the things that he has done in the playoffs, in particular. I think of the game in Atlanta a couple of years ago. So it's a long shot, I would say. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Rodgers v. Brady would be the best story of the year if it got to the Super Bowl.
The biggest loser yesterday seems, to my mind, to have been Le'Veon Bell, because it turns out that all the stuff about...
Sorry, did you miss Buffalo?
Well, sorry. I mean, I think when they picked Nathan Peterman, they knew exactly what they were doing. I definitely think that they might have just decided, right, we're throwing this season, we want the first pick, and we're just going to tell everybody that from the get-go. But it turns out that the offensive line, when they were saying, hey, hang on a second, we're the guys who are making Le'Veon Bell rich, maybe they have a point. James Conner comes up, steps in, and goes for, was it nearly 200 yards and 2 touchdowns?
Yeah. And as many people pointed out, Le'Veon Bell lost $885,000 by not playing in that game. And James Conner earned $34,000 for playing in that game. So this is the thing that we were when we were saying this about Saquon Barkley in our game, and Leonard Fournette, who again got dinged up and was out in the second half. Running backs, there is the perception running backs are more or less fungible. The really great ones aren't really replaceable by one person, but you can scheme your way around them for a lot less money than you have to pay them, and they're always an injury risk. And Bell's teammates were basically saying he's getting paid now. He's not happy about it, but he's getting paid. It's time for him to play with the rest of the team, which is exactly what Earl Thomas did up in Seattle. He reported on Wednesday, and he played, I think it was 65 snaps, which was, almost the whole game. He got an interception. It looked like he had never missed a beat, but he was then saying he was very tired. His game fitness wasn't there. But you can't lose star players like that. I think, Khalil Mack getting paid the amount of money he did in Chicago, and they got great play from him for at least that first half, and it'll get better as he gets in more game shape. That's what star players do in this game. It is a team game, but you always have to have somebody who steps above that team. And the reason these guys get big money is that they step above more often than most.
Just a quick word on the Browns, because obviously after Hard Knocks, a lot of people were interested in what was going to happen, but a lot of people also have serious and significant doubts about the coaching staff there. To come from 21-7 down against your greatest rivals, who Big Ben always beats, they don't get credit in America for having a tie. The rest of the world is like, oh, that's not bad, you guys are all like, hey, hang on a second, you may as well have lost.
Yeah, I may have lived here too long, but I've been arguing for years that there's nothing wrong with a tie, and that goes back to a college game in 1966. Notre Dame and Michigan State tied 10-10. They were 1-2 in the polls, both undefeated at Michigan State. It was a brutal game, a great game. Alabama, who were also undefeated and in number 3, didn't move up in the polls, and Bear Bryant, their coach, thought they should because the other two teams had tied. And he said, a tie is like kissing your sister. And from that point on, America has gone completely tie-phobic. And for reasons I don't understand. To me, it shows you often which coach wants to win and which coaches want not to lose. Because when you get in that position toward the end of the game where you could score a touchdown and go for a 2-point conversion and the win, coaches will never do that. Now, of course, that's because we have overtime, and they'd rather take their chances there. But I think a tie was a fair result for that game, absolutely. And the way the Steelers players were celebrating when they blocked that field goal that would have given Cleveland the win, I think the players thought it was a good result too, certainly better than taking a loss to the Browns. But the Browns have a lot of talent. If you can avoid uncoaching them, I think that's a division that is more balanced than people think. I don't know if there's a whole lot of room between the four teams in those divisions. In that, Cincinnati played really well. Obviously, Baltimore destroyed Buffalo. So I think that one could go right down to the wire.
Who's worse at American football, Mike? Who have we got? Nathan Peterman or Josh Allen?
Boy, it's a tough coaching decision there. And A.J. McCarron, who they traded to Oakland, it makes you wonder what John Gruden was thinking about in Oakland, if he's the third of the three. But, Peterman had a historically bad. He lasted 3 quarters, which is a quarter better than he did in his first start, his only other start last year. But it was a historically bad 3 quarters. I think Tony Graziani is the only guy who's performed as badly, and no one remembers Tony Graziani except me. Allen obviously isn't ready. He's probably he definitely has more upside than Peterman, but he's definitely not ready. And Peterman looked good in preseason, which tells you all you need to know about how important preseason is.
Yeah, we're gonna have to make sure to get a Buffalo Bills question in every single Monday. Next week we can pretty much ask who should they take number 1 in the draft next year, because
I want to point out. I'm glad you made that Rodgers Brady thing, because this morning I'm wearing my Tom Brady 12.5 T-shirt just for you guys, but unfortunately the Skype camera doesn't really show it.
What's 12.5?
That's the minimum inflation level for the American footballs. When they had Deflategate, and they said Brady wanted the balls below 12.5. So since he wears number 12, we've awarded him number 12.5. You
were doing the Jaguars Giants game, so Fournette goes out injured, and that kind of removes any real attacking threat that the Jags have after that. But Saquon Barkley really bottled up in the first half, and then in the second half has that one run that makes you go, well, actually this year's going to be a pretty exciting year for the Giants.
And that's the thing with these kind of backs. You keep pounding away. Bell's kind of the same way. They're big and fast. Ezekiel Elliott's like that. Fournette's like that. You pound away. The other team is obviously keying on you, so they're making it hard for you to gain. But if one guy misses a tackle, or you get one really good block at the line of scrimmage, he can be gone, and he's got the speed when he breaks through the first level to go all the way. And the Jags, actually, T.J. Yeldon did pretty much what you'd expect from T.J. Yeldon. He ran reasonably well. He caught a touchdown pass. And this is what I mean about running backs, being fungible beyond those really great guys, and in some cases being good. The Jags' problem, even, more with the best will in the world, is Blake Bortles. In the second half, they were so afraid of letting him throw downfield that they were almost giving away third down plays because they didn't want him to try to go for the sticks, and they were going short, and that kept the game alive, I think, a bit longer than it would have, and the Giants defense played really well as well, but the Jags defense is as good as advertised last year. They've come back just as strong, and they made life pretty hard for Eli Manning, for Barkley for most of the game, but they did win the Odell Beckham versus Jalen Ramsey matchup. Although it's not always one-on-one, definitely. But when they were there, Beckham was having the better of it.
Yeah, it seemed that they didn't match them up for the whole game. One quick question from YouTube for you. Greatest game of Fitzmagic's career last night, and also, is it the most embarrassing game for Sean Payton? So the Saints got not quite blown out, but nearly blown out by Tampa Bay Buccaneers with their second choice, or maybe now their new first choice quarterback.
Yeah, this has happened before in both cases. The Saints have been blown out on opening day. I think it was last year. It was the year before. And it was a blowout because they had to kind of come back. So 48-40 flatters the Saints because they were able to come back within a touchdown, but they were always trying to make up that 2-touchdown gap. Fitz has done this before. He did it for the Rams when he came off the bench in a game, and he did it a couple of years ago. Oh God, I'm trying to think of who it was against, but he threw for 6 touchdowns in one game. He's a streaky quarterback. And if you watched the highlights or saw the game, he's so relaxed. It's like, it's the best way to lead a team like that. And his passing was very good. He got Deshaun Jackson again in stride on deep passes. He's got Mike Evans as a big target. He just looked like he was having a load of fun out there, and I think the Bucs needed that. That was the biggest shock, I think, of the weekend, because I had the Saints as pretty strong favorites there.
Yeah, no, for sure. Mike, great to have you with us again. Thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, great. I'll have to come up with another T-shirt the next time.
Mike Carlson with us this Monday morning after a pretty interesting weekend of NFL right across the board.